डॉक्टर बाबासाहेब आंबेडकर ओपन यूनिवर्सिटी.
Dear students, I, Dr. Shivang Patel, Associate Professor from School of Computer Science, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University, welcome you all from the Chaitanya studio of Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University. In the lecture series of Python programming, in the previous session, we have started functions in Python. So, we have already discussed various types of functions, how this can be used in the Python program. We have also discussed various types of arguments or number of parameters that you are passing in the function. Now, in today's session, we will continue with some more illustrations and we will also see various types of arguments, right. So, we will continue with one example. Now, in previous session, we have discussed one simple program to check whether the number is even or odd with the help of one user defined function. Now, in today's session, we are continuing with one more illustration to find out the factorial of a given number. So, we have to find out the factorial with the help of function, right. So, for that we are taking one number from the user. So, we are taking one number here. We are using integer and input function. Now, as you already aware, if you want to find the factorial, then number should be greater than 0, right. That means, if you are trying to find out the factorial of 0 or negative number, then it is not defined. So, you can mention here in your message enter number, or you can say that enter any number greater than 0. Now, number will be entered. Now, if user wrongly type particular number that is less than 0, then we are checking with the condition. If number that is greater than 1, then and then we are requiring to find the factorial of particular number. In any other case, if we want to print some message, then you can use that message in the else part. So, here if the number is greater than 1, then we have to call that particular factorial function, right. So, we are creating one function, say for example factorial, and passing here number as a parameter. Now, whenever this function is called, it will find the factorial of particular number that whatever the user has passed here, and the result will be stored in particular variable. So, say for example, we are giving the name answer. So, whatever the result, that will be stored here in the answer variable. Now, we want to print here. So, we can write formatted output. So, here again we are using this f factorial of whatever the number you have passed is and the answer. So, this will print in this format. Now, suppose the user has not entered number that is greater than 1. In that case, what happen? We can print the message that factorial of 0, or you can say that the negative number is not defined. Such kind of message you can pass to the user. Now, suppose number is greater than 0, greater than 1, in that case you are calling this function. So, here this statement answer equal to factorial number, that is called function call, right. So, when this statement will execute, it will search for the function body, right. So, here we are defining that function. So, whatever the actual logic of function that resides here in the function body, and where that function will execute, that will define whenever you are using that function call, right. So we are using this by using that def keyword. Then after the function name that we have already defined, factorial, here we are passing one argument, say for example number, right. Here again we want to say if anyone can enter, say for example number equal to 1, right. So in that case we are not calculating the factorial, simply we are printing that one value without any additional calculation. So in that case we are defining our variable result equal to 1, right. So whatever the number you want to find the factorial, after calculation of factorial the result will store in this result variable, right. Now we are checking if number, here in our case num, that is greater than 1, in that case we have to continue this loop. Now why loop is required to calculate the factorial? As you already aware the logic of factorial, if you want to try to calculate the factorial of 5, then whatever 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. So or you can say that the 1 into 2 into 3 up to 5. So every time you want to increment that number and up to that number you want to multiply till the number value that you can achieve. So for repetition of this multiplication process you are requiring loop. You can use any of the loop, for loop or while loop. Now we are using one counter variable, we have defined CNT. Now in, that is again the keyword. Now range, so range starts with 1 because we want to multiply with 1 or we want to start our counter with 1. Now suppose you want to find out the factorial of 5, in that case if you are using here num, then what happen? It will consider up to 4 only. In your program you want to calculate 5, so here you are requiring to add 1 more. So upper limit that should more, because the range function by default it will consider the upper limit, that is whatever the number you have defined minus 1. So in our case we have to use plus 1, that is why whatever the number you are entering up to that range it will multiply. Now what is the logic? So we have to multiply that particular number. So initially it is 1, you can use here product operation with the asterisk sign. Now whatever the counter value, that every time you are multiplying with the result. So initially the result value is 1, after execution of this loop initially the counter value is also 1. So 1 into 1 the result is 1, that will be stored in result. Now again it will check for number greater than 1, or in the for loop the third step here, that is increment portion, right. So if you are not mentioning increment portion, as we have discussed in the previous session, by default the step value is 1. So it will increment it by 1. So now the counter is 2. So here result value is 1 into 2. So the result is 2, that will store in the result again. Again counter will be incremented. So now the counter value is 3. So result is 2 into 3. So whatever the result or multiplication, that will be stored into the result. So this process will continue till the counter value is not equal to 5, right. Now if the result will be calculated, we can return by using the return statement. As we have discussed in the syntax of Python, this is optional. Here we are using to fetch the value of answer, and then after this value we are transmitting into the function call. So we are transfer this value to the answer variable. Now you can see the flow of code. First of all, user will enter any number, this number will check is greater than 1. If it is greater than 1, then this statement will execute. So that is function call will happen. So your control that passed to function body here. So this whatever the value of number that is passed or assigned to this num variable, say for example 5. Now result equal to 1, that is initialized with 1. number greater than 1, this condition is satisfied. In that case, this loop will execute and repeatedly it will multiply the value with counter. So, whatever the result generated, that will be stored in result and we are returning this result. So, when this loop ends, again control passes to this statement function call here and the result will move to this answer variable, and then after we are printing the value of answer. Now, execute the code. Say for example, you are entering the 5. You can get the result factorial of 5 is 120. Again execute the code. Say for example, you are entering 0 value. In that case, what happen? It will display the message factorial of 0 or negative is not defined. Again you are executing this code. Say for example, this time I am entering -5. So, what happen? Again this message will display. So, this way you can use the function in your program. Now, we are continuing with our session. Here the next topic is types of parameters. So, as we have discussed in the previous session, in the syntax of Python functions, you can pass any parameter or it should be also blank, right. But if you are passing that parameters, or you can say that the arguments, right, then based on that parameters there are multiple types of parameters are there. Now, this will allows a specific task, while function call allows to use logic in our program, right. So, whenever you are defining the function, so you can write that logic in the block of that function body, and whenever you want to call, if you want to use that logic, you are using the function call. So, these are the 4 parameters types: positional arguments, keyword arguments, default arguments and variable length arguments. We will see one by one with demonstration. So, first is positional arguments. So, what is positional argument? It is very common type of arguments, and whenever you are passing some parameters or argument in the function, so as in the same order that will be passed. So, the result that depends on which order that you are maintaining, that is why the result based on the order of that positional parameters. We will see these positional parameters with one example, so you can get more idea. So, this example that is for positional argument, or you can say that the positional parameters. Now, we are defining one function, say for example, subtract function we are defining. We are passing 2 numbers, number 1 and number 2. So, here total number of arguments are 2, number 1 and number 2. Now, when this statement or this function will execute, inside that we are writing one more statement that will execute subtraction operation. Say for example, we are using one variable result that will use here number 1 minus number 2, and we are returning that result when this function call done. Now, suppose we are calling this one more variable answer, we are calling this function subtraction, we are passing 2 values here, one is 8, another is 5, right. Then after we are printing the answer, now what happened? Here this statement will execute. First of all, 2 arguments are passed, one is 8 and one is 5. So, 8 will be assigned to which variable? Number 1, and 5 will be assigned to number 2. Now, result equal to number 1 minus number 2, that is 8 minus 5. Whatever the result, that will be written here and it will be assigned to this answer variable, and it will print here whenever you are executing this code. So, you are executing this code, you can see answer equal to 3, right. Now, suppose we are again defining here 5 and 8. then you are able to the result again to print. Now what happened? You can again execute the code, so you can get more idea. First answer equal to 3 because number 1 equal to 8 and number 2 equal to 5. In the second case, number 1 equal to 5 and number 2 equal to 8. So the result will reverse, right? So number 1 and number 2 are positional parameter. That means based on the order, the result represent. That's why it is considered as positional parameters, right? So if the order will change, the result will change. So that is positional parameters. Now second type of arguments, that is keyword arguments. So in the previous example we have seen, we are passing the values, not the variables, right? But here suppose you don't want to depends on particular order. In that case you are using this kind of arguments. These are known as keyword arguments, in which you have to pass the value in the form of keywords. That means whatever the value you want to pass in the function, that will be in the form of keywords, or you can say that the value will be stored in some variables. Now this will not depend on particular variable values. Now it depends on the keywords, right? We will see with one demonstration. Here we are defining the demonstration of that particular positional parameters that we have already discussed. Now here it is keyword parameters, so keyword arguments. Now suppose the same we are using, say for example, we are defining one function subtraction, number 1 and number 2. Same logic we are applying here. Directly we are subtracting two values here. So whatever the result, that will be passed to particular function call. Here we are defining or calling that particular number 1, but before that we are taking two values from the user, say for example a, enter value of a, then after b, now we are using here number 1 that is equal to a, say for example, and number 2 that is equal to b. Now print the result, answer equal to, you can execute this code. Now enter the value of a, say for example 8 and 5, then answer is 3, right? Here keyword we are using to pass the value. Now suppose the same statement we are using here. But here we are changing number 2 and number 1. So it doesn't depend on particular order, right? It depends on the keyword, because here in the previous case number 1 equal to a, in the next case number 2 equal to a. Now again execute this code. I am entering two values 8 and 5, a equal to 8, b equal to 5. In the first case number 1 equal to a, that's why the result is 3, that is 8 minus 5. In the second case the result is minus 3, because we have used that keyword for assigning value for number 1 and number 2. So now we are concluding our session. In this session we have discussed basically 4 types of arguments. First, that is positional parameter. Second, that is keyword arguments. Both we have discussed with demonstration. Positional arguments, that whatever the result, that depends on the order, and in the keyword argument the order, that never minds whatever the order, it doesn't matter or doesn't affect the result because you are passing the value in the form of keyword or the variable name. Now remaining two arguments that we will continue in the next session. Till then, happy learning, keep coding. Thank you.